Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Professor Christopher McGlothlin, and this is The Ghost Show. What is The Ghost Show, you might ask? Well, on my better days, and I have the best job ever, I'm the creative pit boss of Ghost Show Press, a small but mighty guardian of creator rights. And I am blessed with insanely ridiculously talented friends, four of whom have opted to join me here tonight for the show, and they'll be talking about the exciting things that they're doing. And but our overall purpose in doing this is talking about our mutual interest at the moment, and that's continuing a series of books that we launched way back in 2021 AD, although it does feel like BC sometimes. But yes, we launched with the very first transgressive horror. Then, secondly, we did the original subversive sci-fi, and that led to Fantastic Flops, a book that ironically succeeded. And then what is horror without a sequel? So naturally, Transgressive Horror Resurrected came along. And right now, we're working on the follow-up to Subversive Sci-Fi, Subversive Sci-Fi Evolution, which would be the 5th volume in this mighty series, as it increasingly becomes more books than I can physically lift. The more that the closer we get to turning this show into some magnificent physical comedy. How many books will Professor McGee drop tonight? What vital organs will they land on? Will we get a scream, a wince? You name it. You can make that hilarious level of pain. And by the way, a 5th damn good book with some damn good writing in it by some damn good writers. And I do mean writers. I don't mean chatbots. I don't mean LLMs. I mean actual people watching actual movies giving you actual opinion. This is the stuff the AI will be wanting to rip off. But there you go. So if you would like to get some damn good writing and keep the machine at bay for a little while longer, we just need you to do 2 things. At the link below there, please go there and pledge what you can. We've got a week left and we're 2/3 of the way home. We're trajecting to fund. We just need you guys to go and give what you can actually give. And we appreciate every single penny of it. And you can get the 5th book. You can get any one of the 4 preceding it. You can get all 5. You can get them in electronic format. You can get them in print format. You can get them in all the formats. You can pick an essay for this book. You can join us here on the podcast. Want something else? Need your yard mowed? Send me a message. We can work something out here. So yes, just please help us get this book funded and keep this series going. And right there again, that's the link to pledge. That's the link to share. And thank you very much for checking that out. Now, I'm going to go around this ridiculously talented filled grid and give these wonderful people a chance to introduce themselves and talk about who they are and what they're doing, starting with Nicole.
Hello.
Tell the folks a little bit.
I'm Nicole Toivonen Winchester. I'm a PhD student at York University in Toronto. My field is science and technology studies, which doesn't mean I am a scientist. It means I study scientists and how they create knowledge. So that's kind of cool. My research is in the infrastructures of games as technology, which means I study game systems, specifically Dungeons and Dragons. And I am writing about Enemy of the State. I've written in 3 of the past 4 books, and I really enjoy writing about this stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. So hi.
Excellent. And joining us, they've joined us separately, but now they're here as a team, as we think of them, because these 2 fine gentlemen, in addition to adding to our Canadian invasion theme, as both they and Nicole frequently visit us from north of the border, we have Deb and Jesse, the amazing team that combined for a excellent piece on Pitch Black. And those of you that know them for Dead Money Comics know them from their exciting Western comic work, but I'm stealing their thunder. I'll let you guys talk about what the amazing things you're doing here. And Deb, you want to go first?
Sure. My name is full name is Devinder Thiara. I usually just go by Dev. It's a little bit easier and sound bitey, in that sense. So I guess I'm at this point in my life an independent writer. I previously worked in finance, IT, and quite a bit of RPG game writing. These days, I tend to spend most of my time writing short stories and looking at collaborative works I'm enjoying. Just a whole process of work, of just chatting with other people, working on narrative, looking at how text influences culture, and just sort of, bemoaning the state of our current political climate and trying to understand how we got here. And really, as artists, what can we do to change the narrative? Like, what is there? We as Canadians don't even have a vote in this process anymore. What happens in the U.S., but we do definitely feel the consequences of everything that happens down there. So I've tried to take on the challenge of writing some short stories and some other pieces to throw whatever influence I can towards the society I'd like to see come forward. When I was younger, I always believed in sort of the Star Trek of what we will be eventually becoming, a fair, equal society with diversity appreciated, and generally a much better place as time goes on. And I've unfortunately, in my older age, gotten a lot more cynical and kind of I don't know if we're headed in that direction anymore. But I'd like to see us at least sort of get back on that track, as it were. So I'll kind of leave it at that and let Jesse take over the rest of this.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jesse Scoble. So I've been a video game writer for about 20 years now, which is ridiculous to say. I've worked on some properties like 2 Assassin's Creed games, Origins and Odyssey. I'm about to say Empire, which is the code name for Origins. And a few other Ubisoft games, Far Cry 5 and Watch Dogs 2, and the short-lived Hyperscape, which I was very proud of the work our narrative team did on that one.
Yeah.
Also done a lot of work for Wizard 101 down in Austin, Texas for a few years. But I'm Montreal-based and working with Dev on a Western horror comic, Dead Money, which we successfully kickstarted this summer and are now he was mentioned earlier in the pre-show notes. Our good friend Adam Jury, who's helping with some production costs, just received about 7 boxes of comics. So they're going to be sent out soon-ish. We need a few more things to come together. And we're hard at work on issue 2. Beyond that, I'm also, a full-time writer for Beamdog, a good Canadian studio, and spare time working on collaborative stuff with Dev, working on a speculative fiction esports novel, hopefully to come out this year, and a few other little projects. But it's great to be part of this group and, see what we can do going forward.
All right. And last but certainly not least, a creative force of nature. Always exciting to have Chloe on the show, simply because of a question I legit think about a lot. What's Chloe up to now? So, but Chloe, tell us what you're up to.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Chloe Maviel. I am a freelance writer. I've been a freelance writer for about a decade now. I've been in Publishers Weekly, Polygon, kind of all across the comics and movie internet. I'm the co-host of the 2000 AD podcast, talking about the galaxy's greatest comics that happen to be published in Britain. And newly, the contributing writer for the relaunch of Deadline Comics magazine. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, we're bringing it back. And I also run Mucky Pup Press, which is just a little guerrilla operation that I have operating here out of my little studio, publishing the Gutter Review and a new little project, a DIY zine called Trash Humper, which is all about just transgressive and subversive movies, comics, and generally whatever I feel like writing or making that month. It's sponsored by Adderall, so it's kind of whatever happens, happens. And that's it. That's everything. That's my spiel.
All right.
Aren't we all sponsored by Adderall? Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Well, yeah, but we should make that official. Like we would have a budget for this show.
For real. That should be their sponsorship from from the company that makes Adderall.
Absolutely. And I just want enough sponsorship. We have one of those old Larry King mics in front of me at all times, whether it worked or not. Just the vintage mic. That's all I want. It's my goal.
The old steel one that you can grab really passionately.
I kind of miss working at like working at rural Virginia schools, because if you had a hankering for vintage technology, you could swipe it right out of the library. And other than this brief manhunt for who swiped the overhead projector,
Yes.
or the giant reel-to-reel tape machine you would have seen on like a 60s spaceship, you could get away with it scot-free. And I miss those days. But okay, but enough of my public larceny here. Nicole is joining us for the first time in a while, and it's good to have her back on the show. And she hasn't had a chance to talk about what is a breathtakingly well done, timely, and insightful piece. And it has come such a long, wonderful journey to where she first pitched it to me, and I went, "Oh!" And from that is the acorn from which a mighty oak has grown. But Nicole, if you want to talk a little bit about Enemy of the State and what drew you to doing that for Subversive Sci-Fi.
Oh yeah, for sure. Enemy of the State is one of my favorite movies, and just quickly, before I get into it, I just want to give a shout out to Tony Scott, because when I looked into, the direction of the film, I kind of forgot he had directed it. And the amount of films that he has directed, there's absolutely one of your favorite films that is a Tony Scott film. There has to be one. Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop 2, which is like the best Beverly Hills Cop, Enemy of the State. These are, just super entertaining films. Tony Scott is behind them. And, it's sad that he can't see like how enduring so much of his work is. Just a shout out to Tony. In any case, one of the reasons I wanted to do it was my Enemy of the State clip. First off, it's just a movie that whenever I see it on TV or, whatever, or I feel like watching a movie, like if I see it on TV, I'll stop and watch it. If I feel like watching something, I'll be like, I'll watch Enemy of the State. Like, I love Will Smith. I love the movie. It's just well done. Secondly, I have a clip up on my YouTube. And a while back, it really took off, and it did because Gene Hackman passed away. Rest in peace, Gene. But recently, it started to take off a little bit more, which is kind of strange. But the algorithm is the algorithm. But since I've shared it, and I put it up for a presentation a long time ago. Since I shared it, just the comments are really interesting. And they follow kind of a general narrative that I've seen out in the world in general, which is like Enemy of the State predicted all of this. Enemy of the State was prescient. Enemy of the State saw all of this before it came to us, predicted our modern surveillance state. And there are a lot of articles that say this. And there's actually a guy in The Guardian who has a different take, and was a take that I was thinking about as well. So I was kind of happy to see it. I'll have to find that article and drop it so we can drop it in chat later, or up here later, which is basically that Enemy of the State is one of a few films that I've found that actually didn't necessarily predict all of this, but rather possibly prepared us to accept surveillance. Because if you look at it, the film basically says that, we're being watched all the time, that governments are going to spy on you, that, there's going to be technology that you can't escape. And so every invasion of privacy that comes after is sort of something that you kind of end up shrugging at. And in fact, it's interesting that it's based on a Wired article that was written in 1999. And the guy, David Marconi, who wrote it, actually wrote a script right after that ended up being Live Free or Die Hard. And it was supposed to be made as a separate movie in 2001. But after 9/11, they scrapped the movie. They didn't want to make it anymore because they didn't want to, show cyber terrorists kind of taking over, like, the power grid and stuff like that. And it didn't end up being made until it turned into a Die Hard movie over 10 years later. So, that Marconi, like, may have been someone who kind of had a finger on the pulse to a certain extent. In terms of like looking at things that were actually happening and pointing to them. But the way these things turned out were interesting. And before I continue to go on, I'll just stop after this. I was actually saying to the professor just before we came on that I just recently found out emails from the NSA that were talking about the film after it was made, and they're kind of like, what the hell is this movie? It turns out that the NSA didn't cooperate very much with Tony Scott making the film. They toured around and whatever, but the CIA were open door, come in, look at our gadgets, we will cooperate fully with you. So yeah, here's a tote bag, here's all our cool toys. So the CIA potentially didn't care how the NSA looked in the movie, or were actively tanking the reputation of other agencies while making themselves look good. So it's a really interesting kind of like look at things, because you kind of wonder, okay, we're, because everything wraps up in a neat little bow at the end, and, they're just saying basically like, oh, surveillance is okay if it's in the right hands, if it's used for good purposes. If it's Will Smith surveilling, mobsters, it's fine. But if it's bad guys, no, they should go to jail for that. But, anyway.
All righty. Well, thank you for that. And while we were pondering that, the magic of the Go Show, ladies and gentlemen, not only do you not know what's going to happen on any given show, I don't know what's going to happen on any given show. So in the middle of all this, we've had a wonderful surprise, a moment I have been waiting for now for over 4 years. I finally get to meet in person one of my favorite writers, and sneaking in through the door, joining us from untold time zones. It's probably 2037 where he's at. That's how wild this is to me. A gentleman that you will recognize from so many of our books, covering so many amazing films. The guy that I can count on to, I need to look this up. From the moment that he first talked about cargo in the original Subversive Sci-Fi, all the way up to a fantastic essay about a 60s comedy classic, Mr. X in Bombay, in Bombay. My good friend, whose name I have never actually had to speak aloud. So I'm going to let you do it first, just so that I don't wreck our friendship on first meeting here. So go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you so much, Chris. Hi everyone. I'm Devaditya. Hey. You can simply call me Dev.
Okay. All right. Yay. All right. Well, tell for the folks that you're meeting for the first time. Tell us a little about yourself and what you do creatively.
I happen to teach in a college in India, and I was introduced to our amazing friend Chris and his equally amazing projects by a mutual friend. And yes, like he mentioned, I first wrote about cargo because I always want to write about genre films from India, genre fiction as well. And Chris just gave me a wonderful opportunity, and I have been kind of using or maybe misusing these wonderful opportunities to talk about some of the lesser known films. I mean, I kind of always have this opinion that um, if we are to talk about genre films, it's not just important to talk about the most successful ones, but we also need to talk about the ones that nearly made it or couldn't make it, because you want to let people know why, what exactly didn't work, what exactly might have worked, etc. And this time around I'm talking about this film Mr. X in Bombay, which is kind of difficult to classify, because I mean, for people who are used to watching very classic kind of SF films, this might even, at one point of time look like a ghost story because you see that the heroine, she's feeling very sad because she thinks that the beloved has committed suicide or something, and then suddenly a shadow appears singing one of Hindi cinema's most iconic songs. And that song, I mean, I kind of resisted the temptation to close read the song itself, because I started feeling that, like that, well, I'm talking about SF, not a tragic romance, but the lyric, I'm telling you, it's awesome. It's a song that has been remade multiple times, and it makes the heroine feel very sad that, okay, I did not respond to my beloved's call, genuine call for love. I ignored him, and now his spirit is back to haunt me. But then she suddenly discovers that it's not her beloved spirit, but it's actually her beloved who drank the well, it's not magic. It's basically made of science. The potion that her father, her dear crazy father, scientist father, developed. He drank it by mistake, thinking it's poison, and now he has become an invisible man, or maybe not so invisible man, and he has come back to haunt them all. But what really surprised me was that, and I have tried to explain this within my limited capacities in my essay, that back in 1960s, India did not have the kind of collaboration going on right now. I mean, if we talk about some of the recent SF films, like maybe Kalki 2898, you have amazing people from Hollywood. Even I have had this information that people, well, we can hate it or like it, but the MCU films at times do give us interesting VFX work, and people associated with MCU actually tied hands with some Indian film productions to do the amazing spectacle that is Kalki 2898 for in 2024. But it was not so back in 1960s. In India, we did not have that kind of budget, or even if we had the budget, we probably also did not like to spend that much of money for sheer spectacle. I mean, if we talk about something like Mughal-e Azam did use a lot of money for the amazing sets. I mean, there have been anecdotes like people were using actual pearls. The director recommended that you use actual pearls in a scene to make it so realistic, and the budget skyrocketed for that. And then people were kind of apprehensive about super big budget films, and they were definitely not interested to do that for something called sci-fi, because in India, it's like science is something back in 60s associated to, well, Nehru was trying to make it look like India is progressing, and we did progress, but still science was something that the Britishers brought, so it's not something close to the soil. So people still had some issues with the genre of SF. Well, it's not like something the Indian people would probably connect with, so they were coming up with creative ideas. And this film uses the minimum budget it has, the limited amount of special effects team it has, and makes a film that comes really, really close to the kind of global cinema that was being done back at that time. And like I told Chris, later on, I'm more interested to find out about the special effects team for this film, because I realized that they were not given their due. They
No.
have there is very little information about the special effects team. And if you want to watch this film, it's all out there free viewing on YouTube. And it has scenes like flying cars or people drinking that potion, because the scientist actually comes up with so many versions of that potion. Sometimes it makes people go up in the air, sometimes it makes cars go up in the air, and the final version that nearly works is the one that makes the hero invisible. But I will just end mentioning one more thing, that the film is also very interesting because back in those days we did not have the concept of franchisee for sure. But here is a film that kind of drew upon another film that got quite a success back in 1950s, which was Mr. X, which curiously was played by Kishore Kumar, the lead actor, who is also a legendary singer. Kishore Kumar's elder brother, Ashok Kumar. So they were trying to, and Ashok Kumar played Mr. X, which is the Invisible Man. And, this film was more or less similar to H.G. Wells's classic novel. So they were also trying to tap into the success of Mr. X and trying to present you, okay, Mr. X, you knew Mr. X, now he's in Bombay and he's singing wonderful songs. So that's the brief from my end, and I'll just let people let me know what they think of this.
Please.
I just gotta say really quickly, Deb, you missed my background is in science and technology studies, and I have a friend from India in the program too, and I've read a lot of post-colonial stuff, and the idea that this random science that does random things makes an Indian man invisible is fascinating to me. I gotta watch this movie.
Yes, and in addition to the streaming outlets, I was amazed how easy it is to get on physical media here in the U.S. So if you would prefer, so for disc fans, we're in the book, we're including links that you can follow to actually get this on disc if you want to make this a keeper. And it's one of many wonderful films I've connected with because of Deb's writing. I mean, we started this series to show people that in a world of infinite but same choice, what's remarkable, what's unusual. And he's opened the door for our readers and for me personally, some amazing stuff that I would have missed otherwise. It's kind of one of the foundations of what we're trying to do with this series. And always grateful for you and your contribution, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
So, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. All righty. So let's see here. So Dev and Jesse, you and Chloe both had things you wanted to get into. Anybody feeling like you need to go first? I'll defer to somebody if they want to jump in and seize the initiative here.
I feel like this is the appropriate time for me to say that every single time I come on this show, everybody is extraordinarily well educated and has really incredible backgrounds and all of these things. And I came on to be like, damn, I should have written about Biodome. Like,
Yes,
I'm going to tell you right now. Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, you admit two things. You admit the fact that you're phenomenally talented, and none of the rest of us get this. Look at that. Look at that. I don't get that. Okay, so there you go. So we've all got our own name.
Actually for Polly
and look at it. Look at this. Look at this. Our old Betty Jo Larini. There you go. There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Feed
there you go.
Nonsense.
Yes. So whatever else the rest of us do or don't have, or whatever you do or don't have, you have the people.
I'm just gonna say you're smarter than a lot of people in my PhD program. I'm gonna tell you that straight up. It doesn't take smarts to get a PhD. It does not. You just got to check some boxes.
Absolute madness is what it is. I can't sit still for that long. That's the problem. It's
So why Biodome other than it hits the same strange vibe as the apple?
Okay, well, because in the two weeks ago when I was on, I talked about the Apple, which is still a masterpiece. I've still watched it every single week since then. But my second up was Sex World, the porn parody of Westworld, which is also a masterpiece. But then I was really thinking when because I always come up with kind of a list whenever these projects come through with you, and I was like, I could write about Biodome, which I also think is a sci-fi masterpiece, because it kind of, for the period that it came out, it did sort of, in its own way, for the time and the culture at the time, it was kind of subversive, because it was during this environmental boom that we got in the 90s where everybody's trying to save the world again, man. And it's a really good point to make, that the best of intentions with people who have the ability to say, like, let's put on these very fancy experiments to show that we can save the world. You know, people that are trying to do good, and negating the fact in all of these sci-fi movies that kind of do this, that we're all dumb. We're all absolute morons. The vast majority of us are just thicker than paint. And there is always going to be, like, for all of these cool sci-fi movies where progressive efforts happen, and sure, there might be a disaster, but it's always usually at the hand of something evil, something paranormal, or, you know, anything like that. We negate the idea that most of the time in any of these efforts, it's going to be human error, because we're all stupid. The people that you actually have to apply this to are going to be morons. And Bud and Doyle, the best Baldwin, and Pauly Shore, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And those morons end up proving that it's actually better to be the average dumbass, because that's, like, moving forward from being a normal dumbass is going to actually progress things the way that they should. You have to work with what you got, is what it is.
We'd all be a lot happier if we were all a lot dumber, I think, is often.
Yeah, if we were all able to save the world by simply one wheezing of the juice, buddy, then that would help. It, you know, I just think it's a fun choice, because it does technically count as sci-fi. You know, this is supposed to be this huge experiment that exists in the 90s, and it also kind of pokes fun at that effort. It kind of makes fun of that particular environmental movement where everybody was so sure that we were going to launch ourselves into this perfect new world and get rid of all of the bad stuff that humans had done, but that's never going to happen. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's like kind of Idiocracy as well, which also could be kind of a fun choice.
This is just more and more convincing me that it should be a double feature with Don't Look Up, Biodome and Don't Look Up. You're arguing it's the same argument in that movie, exactly, right? You know.
Yeah. I mean, we all want to believe, we have all grown up believing that in this genre fiction that we're going to be smart enough collectively to make things happen the way that they're supposed to. And my God, if there is no other genre, that's faith. That's some good faith right there. And we are slowly showing that that's not going to happen. We're not going to get those flying cars, baby. It's not going down.
I think we'll get the flying cars. They're just waiting for a time when they will mostly go to people that you wouldn't trust with, like, the sharp scissors.
Yeah, no, don't leave them alone around paste. You know, it's crayons, keep them out. Those are sharp and taste delicious. You know? Yeah, Biodome, Don't Look Up, and Idiocracy, triple feature.
Well, after that, as you so often inspire me to do, I can only tap the sign that you can go to that link, and you can either put us $200 over our goal, which will enable me to hire another writer to do another piece, or You can back us at our higher levels, and then you can just tell us what movie you want us to do. You can frankly demand, you can pound the table for Biodome. Or whatever else you like, and you will also see 32 other damn good pieces of writing. It's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. And even if we have not convinced you to do so, you know somebody in your life that's dying to read a Biodome essay. Cost nothing to get that link to them. You will make their life better and more complete and more fulfilled, because they'll get access to more interesting and entertaining media. And we can keep on making these books for you people, which bring us a lot of joy and satisfaction, and hopefully doing our small part to direct interested people toward interesting art. So please help us with that. All righty. So Deb and Jesse, you guys have been conspiring on something that even I'm not 100% sure what it is. So please spring your scheme upon us.
So we generally try and have what I call these watch parties with a couple of my friends, and we just pick a movie and then we watch it, and then we either have ongoing questions, commentary as we're observing the film, or afterwards we have a chat about it to kind of see what we can get out of it. As I said again, I'm really into collaborative sort of stuff these days, and it's a fun little exercise to do. Even though all my friends are in different parts of the world, etc., we're able to, bring things closer together using the power of the internet, basically for good, as opposed to for pornography and cat videos, right? So we decided, I guess a week or two ago, where we're going to look at Cube, 1997 film. I put the link for it in case people aren't familiar with it or want to just quick synopsis of it.
Such a good choice. It's such a good choice.
Classic Canadian science fiction. Horror.
So this is where I have my little humble brag. I worked with Julian Riching's partner, and also was in a Nikita episode with him. So
wow.
Fantastic.
I mean, part of our attraction to Canadian stuff is because it's sort of sometimes a local secret, other times nobody gives a shit about what happens in Canada about these things. So this movie falls in this weird place where it was made on a really low budget. It had sort of some real challenges around getting it done. In fact, one of the anecdotes from the movie was that where they built the set in this warehouse, this train kept going by like every so often, and they had to keep stopping production to get around that. And eventually somebody just said, we'll just put the damn track sound in there and it's part of the Cube, and that's fine. And we'll just get it done. So they did. And then eventually got released, and nobody in Canada, like I said, gave a shit about it at all. And it then got taken out into France, where it released in like 250 theaters or something. It became huge in Japan. And then eventually it made its way back to Canada to be acknowledged as something worth looking at, or having some critical thought behind it. So we kind of realize that happens a lot in Canada. You kind of, the native talents have to go out there, prove themselves in the US usually, and then eventually we bring them back to the bosom to acknowledge how good they are. And I find that whole thing fascinating, being a Canadian, trying to produce art and trying to get it published here and do things like that, where I literally have to go outside of the country itself to be successful and then be acknowledged back home in a sense. So it had that little odd thing going for it. But overall, as I said, it's a sci-fi existential film about sort of the, you can get a lot out of the film, but it's ultimately, in my opinion, about sort of the lack we have of the larger universe just having its own set of unknown rules, and it just operates. We're thrown in that box, and we just sort of have to figure out what's going on, and we have our own sort of perspective on what we think is happening and decisions we make around ethics, morality, and then it ties it up in this one little sort of 27-foot cube, one box at a time, exploring that with all of these characters, which I find frankly quite incredible what they were able to do given the limitations of what they had. And it's a film I feel that needs to be viewed a bit more out there in the general public, knowledge. I mean, these days it's a bit of a cult classic, but I thought it was worth highlighting and bringing to the forefront of some of the sort of things we do up in Canada, where we make little of these things and sort of release them out there in the world. And they have their impact and, end up becoming at least a small part of our global culture and what it brings. But I'll stop going on about it and let Jesse get a word in here twice about it. So we can keep the conversation going on films we, kind of really enjoy.
Yes, it's hard to get your true thoughts on these things. It's so the Cube, like Pitch Black, we watched together initially in our university days. Dev and I both went to the University of Guelph at the same time, and so we had a lot of overlap there, and it was very foundational. I think a lot of our kind of views and things, not specifically the Cube, but that period of time, as what influenced us and where we've kind of gone and taken from those points. So when we were talking about other possible movies to cover, I mean, we discussed briefly Dark City as a thing, and although I think someone else is possibly doing it, but the Cube, because it's this cult classic, and so I think everyone here may know it, but if those watching at home aren't sure, so it's this sort of modern day or slightly near future setting where about a half a dozen people wake up in strange overalls in this very metallic box, right? This 14 feet by 14 feet or something, or 20 feet by 20 feet, that has doors, one door in each of the walls. And they have no idea, they have no memory of how they got there. They're from completely different backgrounds. One's a math student. One's a police officer. One guy's like a jewel thief. One's a sort of beat cop. There's a young autistic man, and they discover quite quickly once they start going, opening doors and trying to figure a way through this labyrinth, that there are all sorts of horrible traps and things, almost sort of Saw-like in some of the death traps and booby traps. So they have to try and work together and figure out, what they can solve this thing. But it layers a lot of interesting little hooks and sort of ideas through it. But gives very few answers, and it leaves a lot open to interpretation and exploration. A lot of things can be kind of discussed and debated, and ties in, I think, thematically a little bit to Nicole's Enemy of the State in terms of, this kind of giant military-industrial complex type, or by these days, big tech would be behind some kind of experiment like this. Inevitably, the New York Times would be like, maybe the Cube is a good thing. Maybe we should all be in a cube. So it ties nicely to the mood of the day. It's one of these also. What's that common meme going around? We finally created the torrent nexus from that book. Don't make the torrent nexus. It's very much in that sort of way. And I mean, it was successful enough that it spawned two direct, one sequel, one prequel, and one Japanese remake, I think. Although I understand that all of them were terrible. So it's, again, one of these cases where maybe it's best just to stick with the original. Nicole, have you seen any of the other versions?
I actually was just thinking when you mentioned that that it how much Cube sounded like Arrival, which is one of my favorite movies actually, but and it is probably the remake of Cube. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. I mean, it's not at all the same movie. If you're looking for Cube in Alive, no, because there's a witch. But I mean, it's a great movie in and of itself. I guess it's terrible as a Cube remake. I'll say that much. But quickly, I wanted to add, as just an addition to what Dev was saying about being, well known or successful in Canada. One of the other things that happens before you leave is if you become successful in Canada, everyone kind of hates you. That's the other thing, the tall poppy syndrome. I understand it's the law of Jante in Norway or Sweden, I think. But yeah, that's the other thing. You have to leave the country because everyone hates you, and then you become famous outside, and they all love you when you come back.
Oh, well, I think I may have the perfect perfect group of people to raise this point with, and it's something that's been kicking around in my head since I was 7 or 8 and started getting into literary sci-fi. And I came across a guidebook that had, like, if you want to get into like end of the world dystopian fiction, and it had one sentence in it. It's like, nobody does the end of the world better than the British. And they were talking about art writers like J.G. Ballard and people like that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. And it started, and ever since that, I've noticed that obviously every country's sci-fi is going to have different shades and different levels and different themes. But there's this tendency that, like, if you're looking for like darker into the world stuff, it's like if you're looking at like your farther northern hemisphere countries, like only Canada could have given us David Cronenberg and Shivers and Rabid, and the British. We've talked about.
And last night, Don McKellar. Last night, such a beautiful movie.
Yeah. And you know, and like every Russian film is you're fucked in a different genre.
Yeah.
And the Japanese have built a global empire about the rubber monsters that are coming to kill us all. It's like once you start moving further south, you know, you get America whose films tend to represent that fundamental optimism that we have. And then Deb can speak to India, a film, you know, with these glorious, beautiful musical numbers that, you know, and speaking of musical numbers, kind enough to share with us the song from Mr. X in Bombay.
Oh,
so once you're done listening to us yammer, here you go. Even if we wander into depressing end of the world topics, there you go. He's saved the show with this song here. All right. So what do y'all think? Is it, if your country's weather sucks, does it help with you doing more sad, darker material?
Yeah, I think dystopia lends itself to where, you know, you're really struggling to survive 4, 5, 6 months out of the year, probably. I mean, having explored some native literature in terms of the Northern Hemisphere, at least, there's a lot of streaks about, you know, famine, starvation, and sort of generally dealing with the darkness and lack of sunlight, etc. So I suspect there's roots in there that really, really sort of make those narratives fruitful. But you know, again, I mean, Japan isn't really in that spot, and they seem to have, you know, kind of really taken on the dystopian tropes in a lot of their art. So it's maybe not a great argument, but that's sort of what I was thinking. But you know.
All right. So Chloe, you want to talk about the U.S. dark material, and then we'll give Deb a chance to talk about India's relation to more dystopic material. So, Chloe, are we Americans at a disadvantage? Are we at a competitive disadvantage to Canada and other countries when it comes to the end of the world?
No, I think that we're too optimistic. Actually, I think that like every end of the world dystopian sort of thing with American movies, for the most part. Little asterisk there, comes down to everything's bad, but don't worry, something or someone will save us. And wow, again, a leap of faith. I don't buy it. But think about Threads. You brought up British like end of the world stuff. I'm like, think about Threads. Think about what's the animated one? When the Wind Blows. Think about like all of there's so many incredible movies that do dystopia in other countries that it is just, it's all bad, and somehow we're gonna get through it, I guess. There's still some faith to it, because that's kind of what drives a story, right? Like if everybody just said fuck it, then that's not much of a plot. But in a lot of these other stories, there is at least a hint of doubt. There is a hint of doubt. We as Americans, our hubris is so big and our egos are so big that we just bank on the idea that we're just so awesome that we're going to get through it. No. If we get through it, we end up like in Mega City 1. We're in the Judge Dredd universe, which is supposed to take place in America. That's the end hope that we're grasping onto. And so, yeah, I don't I like a lot of American like everything's gone bad films, but I don't buy into them, and they don't leave me with the same existential crisis that a lot of films from other countries do.
Oh yeah, yeah. The difference between watching No Blade of Grass and The Happening, ma'am, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're killer plant movies right there. Well,
Yeah.
Deb, what's the end of the world like in Indian cinema?
It's a very interesting question to ask. Now, let me put it like this: we did not have too many of so large scale dystopic films like we were talking about a while back until 20 Kalki 2898 AD, which I referred to earlier as well. And I have to recommend this film to anyone and everyone who has not seen it, because it opens with I would say a rather shocking image, because when we think of India, one of the things that immediately comes to our mind is the amazing holy river Ganga, the Ganges, that is. And it opens with a scene where you see the river has completely dried up, and you have a somber voice in the background that in India we think that the river Ganga, it's a mythological river, and it is supposed to wash away all our sins, which is why we Indians keep bathing in the river. And a voice mutters that, well, you were wiping out all our sins, but look what it did to you, Mother Ganges. So that's how the film opens. And I kept on thinking, I mean, were we actually kind of feeling inspired by Hollywood dystopic films? Because in case of India, the genre films, sadly or happily, have always been inspired by global cinema traditions, mostly Hollywood. But then I felt that no, this was probably not just a case of us lifting stuff like we used to in case of 80s horror. I'm sure we can talk about that some other day. But this film was very interesting because it connects the stories back from the days of Mahabharata. I mean, Mahabharata is another amazing text that I can never get tired of recommending to people, because in India, well, we have this kind of saying that, well, there is everything in Mahabharata. I mean, if you want to find a love story, you have it. If you find a story that is like a prototype of SF, you have it. You name it, you have it in the form of prototype in Mahabharata. It's such an amazing text. It has myriad number of characters, innumerable subplots and everything. And it's basically like most other epics are, about great battles. And the battle, post the battle, there are people out there, although it's kind of controversial, they kind of argue that the weapons used in Mahabharata, they are almost like nuclear weapons, because the weapons that are mentioned there, the effect it has, it is almost like what we now have in the form of atom. Well, we have sadly now deadlier weapons, deadlier than atom bombs, but the effects are almost similar. And well, the way Mahabharata ends, like every innocents have been killed for the sake of the battle, and the ending of the battle of Mahabharata is quite dreadful, and this film starts taking up from there. And it tells us that the end of the age of Mahabharata took us into the age of Kali, which according to Indian metaphysics is the current age, Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is supposed to be the age where all innocents are going to be misused, killed mercilessly. I mean, it reminds you of the second coming, and we all know Yeats loved Indian metaphysics. So we have that kind of situation in Kalki 2898. But if I talk about the other Indian SF films, I would say we never really explored dystopia to this length, probably because the visible impact of futuristic technologies was rather not very promptly visible all across India. Rather, if you have most the recurring theme you have in most of the Indian SF films would be, well, there is either a scientist who is working in a low budget laboratory, and someone from outside country comes to steal his or her amazing formula, although it's mostly a he. We have a terrible gender bias there. And or you have a scientist who is fed up of the corruption in the society and who goes rogue and develops something that makes a villain sort of out of him. And yes, I do remember we also had a couple of films where we have an Indian counterpart of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I don't know if we can count that SF, but there are actually films where we have a very interesting take on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And we had a very, very interesting film that was supposed to be made back in 1980s. It was being done by Shekhar Kapoor, who later on did Mr. India, which is also often celebrated. It's a great film. Mr. India is a great film, hands down. I mean, I also kind of can't resist the temptation of mentioning that Mr. X in Bombay actually predates Mr. India, but it has multiple sequences which, if you compare it to Mr. India, it looks like Shekhar Kapoor did take inspiration from Mr. X in Bombay. I have tried to show that in my essay, but that's another thing to explore. But as I was saying, Shekhar Kapoor back in 1980s tries to make this amazing film called Time Machine. It had so many A-listers from Bollywood, but I don't know if Mr. Shekhar Kapoor ever will watch this podcast, but if you do, Shekhar, I love your films, but we all know that you have a major issue about abandoning amazing projects midway, and that's what he did with Time Machine. It was supposed to be made in a very grand scale, and I don't know if the makers will ever release the footages of the amount of shooting they did. I kind of had this information from an insider of Bombay that the film was probably about 20 to 30% completed, and it was looking amazing. But it's a thing with Shekhar. He leaves amazing films midway. I don't know why, or maybe I do. And I should also add that Shekhar Kapoor again wanted to make another futuristic, very significantly dystopic film on water crisis, and it got so badly struck by COVID. If we didn't have COVID, probably we would have an amazing film out there which was being made by Shekhar Kapoor on water crisis. But if I keep these things aside, it's mostly about scientists discovering things that are not accepted by the society, because in India I keep referring to this fact that still science is something that is supposed to be brought from outside. So it scares people. I mean, if you look at a number of zombie films from India, which I tried to explore and which I intend to talk about later on for some other opportunity, you have a recurring theme like, someone was doing some sort of an experiment, but I guess it's very much true for Hollywood films as well. And then you have the technology going wrong, turning people into zombies, and we have killer devices. I also remember an interesting film on clones in India. I mean, a scientist was trying to make a human clone, and as we know, it always goes wrong when you try to make a human clone.
Oh yeah,
So that's pretty much what I can talk about for the time.
Well, thank you. Always so educational talking to you. So I wish I could take one of your classes.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, and I swear to God, I had no idea we were going to do all this doomsday stuff before I came up with end of days. That's all I could think of, that we're coming down to the end of the campaign to call this. But isn't it great that I have a touch that makes it look like I put some planning into this? All right. Well, listen, I do want to give our guests a chance to talk about exciting stuff that they're working on, but before we wrapped up today, I wanted to take a moment and acknowledge us amongst all this great creative activity, all this great thought, and what looks like it's going to be a fingers crossed, another successful Kickstarter. Bit of sad news in the Ghost Showcast here. A few weeks ago, I just finished reading over Rob Weiland's piece on Mad Max Fury Road. And if you may know him from Gamehole Con, you may know him from his game work, you may know him from the really cool piece that he did on Tremors in our last book, Transgressive Horror Resurrected. But no sooner had I sent off another quality essay to our editor Spike, we found out that we lost Rob without and we want to thank him for his contributions to Go Show Press, and send our condolences to his family and his friends and his fans, and make it aware that the family does have a Kickstarter, and we wanted to put that link up there. Oh, sorry, wrong link. Sorry. It scrolled on here. That's the right link. There you go. So yes, they are very, 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 very close to hitting their goal to helping out Rob's wife and daughter. So if you possibly can, again, great thing to contribute to, and a great thing to share. And again, we want to express our thoughts at this time. And so with that, anybody have anything else that you're working on you want to talk about? Nicole, you're all over the internet these days. Do you have time for anything else?
Yeah, I'll be dropping a video tomorrow, hopefully, about my essay. So yeah, fingers crossed. And yeah, look for that. Other than that, I told the professor that I might have some news on November 1st about another essay collection. We'll see. Fingers crossed. I'll let y'all know if I do. Yeah, other than that, just kicking around Toronto. Yeah, that's about it for me.
All righty. Well, Deb and Jesse, you guys have anything you're working on, or I know you're busy getting dead money out to the people, but you guys have anything in the works you want to talk about?
I guess I'll go next because I'm just on the row there. Yes, dead money is our main thing we're focused on at the moment. So we just finished off script 2, working on 3, and then we're going to hopefully get the series wrapped up in about 10 issues. Interestingly enough, it's largely an exploration of Americana from our perspective, because nobody cares about Canada, so we're like, the hell with it, right?
Canadian studies minor here, paid to learn about your country.
I'm joking mostly. We have our own sort of way of being prideful and sort of underplaying our role in things. But anyways, dead money's a thing. We're mostly spending a lot of our energies. Beyond that, as I said, I do enjoy writing short stories, etc. So there's one I'm working on is some AI stuff where what happens if the Buddha becomes reincarnated as an AI avatar essentially, and what are the effects of that? Because at the end of the day, they are essentially a soul that's reborn. So we'll see where I end up with that basically, and again, it's trying to address a lot of the things I'm interested in, which is partially a bit of my own culture. And again, I'm culturally from India, but I came to Canada like when, I essentially think of myself as Canadian because I've never, really gone back or have any links, but I do feel the need to explore the philosophical implications of India as a country, culture, etc. And I'm drawn to some of that and sort of, try and put it through my own reinterpretations of what some of those things would mean. So this seemed like an opportunity to do a short story about some of these things and kind of draw on some of the other large cultural aspects, like Peter Thiel's Palantir that's trying to, globalize data capture and screw us all basically. And like, what do these things mean? So I like to try and weave a lot of this stuff together. to try and bring back the lessons we have all, inherited from history, plus what the future sort of forward looks like. And can we make any sense of any of this shit? And hopefully it doesn't doom our civilization basically at the same time. So there's that thing. And there's a magazine here we have in Canada called The Walrus. It's sort of like the New Yorker kind of. So I'm working on a short story, kind of essay thing there, where I had fortunately met Margaret Atwood at a Eden Mills Writers Festival way back in my life. And I had challenged reviews on The Handmaid's Tale about it and got thoroughly spanked by her. So I thought I would write about that amusing little encounter, and it might be something that folks might enjoy, given the fact that we're up here, in some of our provinces banning books and trying to burn things, etc. So it's very, very much, something that I think would resonate. And then I have a couple other short stories which are still in the really sort of embryonic stage, which again I'm going to continue sort of poking at and working at and trying to get out there. So that's what I've been up to, and beyond Dead Money and helping Jesse with some other editorial duties. So go ahead, Jesse.
Hey, thanks, Dev. So yes, I showed the cover of Dead Money. These are the test prints, but
oh yeah,
super happy with them. We got to show them around at CanCon last weekend, Canada's premier speculative fiction conference in Ottawa, which is a great show for those interested in such things. And recently, I had a short story called True Ink published in this book, Ministry Agreements, by Beaches and Trails, a small Canadian press. It is a very Canadian story. It's about a magic tattoo parlor set in the main streets of Toronto, caught in the middle of a gang war.
Oh, wow.
So I enjoyed working on that and definitely getting it out there. And I've actually submitted it recently for the year's Best Canadian Fantasy and Science Fiction collection for next year's volume, stuff printed this year for next year. So Nicole, if you don't know about that project, I should let you know about it so you can pass the word along. And beyond that, mostly it's focusing on Dead Money stuff. And as I mentioned, I'm working to get a novel self-published in the next few months with a good friend Adam Jury helping on the production design. The project sort of keeps getting a little bigger and bigger, but it's a near future speculative fiction piece about competitive gaming, the esports world, drawn a bit from my background as a game writer, game designer. So that's pretty much what's on the plate. So thanks, Chris.
Excellent. You're welcome. All right, Deb, what are you up to these days?
Yeah, sorry, I was kind of it got fiddly with my mouse. I probably have been trying to do a little bit too many things this year, but which is why like the last years. Again, Chris, I kind of had to take some extra time from you to finish this essay. But well, I'll give you some information about what I have been doing this year. Well, back from 2022, I am working on a translation project, and this project, if it works, probably it will have some really cool stories from Bengali translated into English for the entire world to read, and these are uncanny stories. This is the project that has my heart these days. I am keeping all my fingers and toes crossed that it works. I have been in touch with the publisher because the publisher, I'm not going to name the publisher because it's still not official, but well, the publisher at times is scared by the by the sheer magnitude of the project. At times they are like, "Wow, these are really cool stories." At times they are back to me, probably scratching their head that, "Well, okay, it's really nice, but are you sure you will be able to pull it off? It's such a huge project." But I have been trying to do that, and I hope it works soon, and I'll be able to share with all of you some really, really interesting stories which are rooted in Indian folklore, myths, forgotten deities, and it also has many interesting things, like the partition of India, for instance. I mean, I found some really interesting ghost stories which are about the partition of India, and they just do not scare you, but they are really emotional. So it's a project that I would love to see, hitting the shelves someday soon. And yes, I should also mention that I have this impression of me that someday uh, I might just become an on-screen storyteller. I have some friends and a few co-actors with whom I made a short film back in 2015. And this year, like I said, I'm probably trying to do too many things, but we started thinking that, well, we can do it again, and we are thinking about developing an anthology of Gothic films, and we are doing it. And guess what? We are also trying to get our production company registered so that we have a presence. And I'm also trying to, prepare for my onstage appearance after 6 years. We are doing an adaptation of Bernard Shaw's Arms and the Man. So, like I said, I'm wandering about with too many things. But yes, apart from all that, I am also trying to work on a few Bengali science fiction stories and films. Particularly, I'm interested to explore on when it comes to the stories. I have one writer who is a really nice talent. I should mention his name. He's Shoham Guho. Shoham's works are getting translated, and he has done something really interesting. I mean, he has this story in. I can show you the book. It's from. I don't know if you can see that because of the filter I have applied.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Oh, there you go. So you had it there.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like here. It's from Hachette, and it has some really interesting stories from South Asia translated, and some are originally written in. Yes, it's a big volume. It has 2 volumes, and Shoham did a short story for this, which is about Ice Age coming to Kolkata, and it's a very literally chilling story. And I'm trying to work on Shoham's writings, and I'm also working on a few Indian science fiction films. I'm really interested to know particularly about the production of these films. I mean, the kind of issues they encounter during the production, post-production, etc. So that's pretty much what I've been doing.
Right. Wow. Those of us who are going to sit on the couch and finish leftover pizza and watch football are in awe of that. But all right, and as we get the link up for Trash Humper, Chloe, what's going on at Trash Humper and your other ventures?
Let's see. Well, you can come and see this mug and listen to this voice every week if you want to on YouTube, 2000 AD Comics, where me and my co-host Mike just are constantly every single week, same bat time, same bat channel, talking about British comics, specifically 2000 AD and the treasury of British comics. You can do that. You can go and check out the fun little zine that I have made, Trash Humper, if you are into movies and comics and art that nobody gives a shit about anymore, but that I feel very passionately about and will ramble at length about, and then splash a bunch of ink all over the page at 2:00 in the morning and print it out on my terrible printer. But it is available at PDF for a ridiculously low price of pay whatever you want, because I'm going to make it anyway. Yeah, exactly. And otherwise, you can see some more of my writing on comics with some of the really, really cool legacy British comics creators in the new Deadline A1 that is going to be coming out in the next couple of months, which is also a Kickstarter project, but I ain't going to plug that. Focus on this. Do that instead. Fund this. Make it happen, because honestly, getting to be a part of these books, like, is a highlight for me, because so few outlets, and especially so few publishers, even small press publishers, offer an opportunity to freelancers to really just talk however you want and trust in your intellectual ability and your creative ability about whatever like film that you feel like doing. And it's really a breath of fresh air. So make sure this gets funded, because we want to keep doing it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, for those of you who are fans of the podcast, we've been doing these Sundays at 8:00, and the reason we're breaking away from that is because the campaign ends at Sunday at 8:00, and it would be kind of weird urging you to contribute to this campaign that has ended. So even I am depressed by the thought of me podcasting on a Saturday night. So to preserve the illusion that I have a life and interesting things going on other than talking to these wonderful, talented people, I've opted to take part with at least a part of my Halloween. So we're doing a special late night, 9 p.m. Eastern time episode of the Ghost Show on Friday, Halloween, at that URL. And you can sign up to be subscribed when we go live. And it may just be me trying not to let any copyrighted music come from my TV or my monitor and get the whole thing banned. But yeah, it'll be me and anybody else who is either bored enough or in love enough with this project to on Halloween night come and rap about things. So it may just be my slow mental breakdown, which I think would be worth tuning into just by itself. But thank you. But I may have company on my journey to madness. So if you thought tonight was unpredictable, Halloween, it's going to get appropriately nuts. It may be the online version of Late Night with the Devil. It could get wild. It could get crazy. And who knows? Maybe we'll have a really good week. And I'll be here with champagne, and we'll be talking about isn't it great how this book funded early, and I can have my first stress-free weekend in a month. Otherwise, it may be a lot of pleading and begging. Either way, must see internet. So right there's the link for that. And
are you promising people a possession on live internet?
Whatever it takes to get this funded.
I think I'm hoping that if you can promise right now that if nobody's able to do it, that you will just talk to sock puppets the whole time, that might do the trick.
Well, I won't take up valuable time to show it, but thanks to our colleague Kristen Hutchison, we do have an official Ghost Show puppet. Yes, and it's such a superb puppet. It's so well done. I really should show it off. I just feel really actually making it talk, because to me, from a skilled puppeteer, it's a beautiful art form. For me, it's a clumsy cry for help. So I'm trying to resist the urge of actually puppeting it. I need Seth Johnson. Somebody who actually has some puppeting experience. He should rightfully have this. But as far as craftsmanship, it's amazing. And Kristen, if you're watching, thank you. I adore it. It's just out of monitor reach right now. But yes, there you can see the Ghost Show puppet on Friday. There you go. I'll put that on the table too. But if you love what we do, if you love our chatter, you love our books, you like to see this thing going, well, my friends, it's up to you. It's up to you. Right there's the link. That will either get enough eyeballs and enough money to keep this thing going, or we'll have a lot of free time. We will probably turn to crime. You will have to answer for what we might do if we don't dedicate time to these books. In the words of Dr. Hunter S. Thompson, God, you'd better take care of me, or else you'll have me on your hands. So there you go. I quote the great Dr. Thompson in terms of that. But in all seriousness, I'd like to thank my amazing friends and guests for coming and sharing your time and your talents and your humor and your insights, and for being a part of this and making this whole series happen. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for spreading the word, and thank you for making all of this happen. And until Friday night, Halloween at 9:00 Eastern time, I'm Professor Christopher McGlothlin, and this has been the Ghost Show.